Okay, so this is mechanical navies. This locomotive is a austerity class locomotive, which was built by Robert Stephenson in 1944. Robert Stephenson, Newcastle, Darlington. It worked at the quarry for a number of years until it was preserved, I think sometime in the 70s. Not quite sure on that. But anyway, this is just going to be a short video on how one of these machines work. Okay, so here we have the mechanical lubricators. These are basically like oil pumps, and they lubricate all the main bearings, the journals, the eccentrics, the crank pins, you name it, they lubricate it. There's all the pipes coming from them, see? It's basically like an oil pump. Right, so these are the brake blocks. There's the brake blocks. Everything's mechanical on a steam engine. There's nothing hydraulic. It's all mechanical. State of those. So these brake blocks work on a vacuum system, whereas like brake blocks work on a car, where you've got hydraulic pressure pushing the brake blocks tight to the disc or drum. These work on a vacuum created by the locomotive, and I'll show you the cylinder now. There's the cylinder that creates the vacuum. So they basically suck the brakes onto the shoes, and they work really, really well. I'll tell you that now. That's where the saying comes from, it stops like a train. Okay, so show you some things in the cab. These are the injectors. They are what fill the boiler full of water. Let's come focusing. They fill the boiler full of water. Now they actually inject steam into the boiler at boiler pressure. It works in a very complicated way, which I'll get into in other videos, how these work, because they're quite complicated. So basically what they do is they suck water out of the water tank, which is your at boiler pressure. The water is taken by gravity, obviously. Water always flows downhill into the injectors, which is this here. There's like a vortex in here and a cone, and the pressure of the boiler pushes that water back into the boiler to fill the boiler up with water. Fucking door shut. There's two injectors on the logo. This is the other one. There's the other one. Right, let's see if I can get a better show you a bit more of the plumbing work on it. Right, there's the injector. It's bolted to the boss. These are called pads. So they're all bolted to the boiler. And this is the main valve for the injector. You've got a pipe coming straight from the water tank, which is there. There's a pipe there coming from the water tank. It goes down to the injector and comes back round up through. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it comes back round up through this pipe here. And this pipe here is full of steam pressure, and that blasts steam pressure straight into the boiler and fills the boiler full of water. It also cools it. This is the return or the overflow pipe, which is that pipe there. That just the overflow water just runs out onto the floor, and you can also fill the boiler through the overflow pipe as well. Okay. This is the firebox. That's where all the This is the business end of the loco. That's where you light the fire. Put the coal in. That warms the water. Heat from the fire warms the water and creates the steam. All those holes there, tubes, they run right through the diameter of the boiler. And they work like heating elements in a kettle. And they boil the water to create the steam. Those there are called crown stays. They're basically a structural part of the boiler which hold it all together and stop it all from imploding. You know, 165 pounds per square inch in this thing when it's at operating temperature. That there is a fusible plug. If the water level becomes too low, it will melt the lead inside that, and water will come out at boiler pressure and put out any other fire. It's a fail-safe device, and they work pretty well. Never actually seen one. I've never actually seen one drop their plug, but apparently it's not a very nice thing to be around. Causes a hell of a lot of damage to the engine. That does, or the boiler. There's a steam gauge, pressure gauge actually. As you can see, the red stripe there indicates 165 pounds per square inch. That's when the safety valves will start lifting, and you get that big spurt of steam at the top. We call that blowing off. This is the regulator. This is basically like an accelerator. It's basically an accelerator, the equivalent of an accelerator. We call it the regulator valve. Obviously it opens the main valve in the boiler to allow the steam to the cylinders. And yeah, that's that. These are the gauge glasses. They tell you how much water is in the actual boiler itself. You don't want to go too low on a steam engine. If the water becomes too low on a steam loco, it's very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. It can do all sorts of damage. If your water level becomes too low, it can. There was a real. I don't want to get into that. You must make sure that the water level is crucial. Is above half a glass at all times, because the water will become too low, and the temperature of the heat in the firebox will distort the metal. It will cause all sorts of problems. Localized heating, because the water also acts as a water jacket. We call it the water space, and that cools the outside of the boiler to stop it from becoming too hot. Yeah, and that's what cools the boiler. But that's why it's crucial to keep your water level topped up. See, handbrake. It's a screw handbrake on this loco. All locomotives have screw handbrakes. Basically works like a vice. As you tighten the screw, the brake blocks get tighter on the wheel. That's a steam brake. That's very complicated. I ain't going to get into that today. I'll show you what the underneath of a loco looks like. All the motion on the eccentrics. Here's the other injector. As you can see, that pipe I was talking about came back in was this one here. Yeah. Get that in more detail, injectors. They're very complicated. Very clever how they work as well. Okay, let's go underneath. Oh shit, man. Okay, so this is what a loco looks like underneath. This is what it looks like under a steam loco. There's your springs, leaf springs, to absorb any bumps in the track or anything like that. These locos were built for the war. They were actually built in the 40s to feed the industries of war. They were a very, very straightforward engine to build. They were built by a lot of different companies, these locomotives. Not just Robert Stephenson built these. All sorts of other engine works built these too. They were like a standard standard plan. Like, you know, they all had one plan and they built it to the same dimensions. Right, okay. So here we have the eccentrics. these are the valve rods. These here, they're basically the valves that let the steam in to the cylinders and let the steam out. These are the outlet. How can I explain this? So basically, what you've got is a crankshaft. It's just like a crankshaft on a car. See, this is technically the crankshaft of the engine. This here, the axle and the crankshaft are all one thing. They're all built, they're all the same thing. And the timing for the valves is taken off the crankshaft. See? These are the eccentrics here for the valves, for the valve timing. Right. That's what these are. This here is the connecting rod from the cylinder. This is the power out. Connecting rod straight from the cylinder. And also this one here is too. Alright. And these are for the timing, for the valve timing. As you can see, this rod goes all the way up through here into this bracket, into this here, which is called a mid-gear. In the cab there's a reverser, as it's called. And when this whole assembly moves, it changes the direction of the steam going into the cylinders. It changes the direction that the steam goes into the cylinders so that the engine can go forward or backwards. That's what that does. This whole assembly here moves. It's a very heavy thing. Extremely complicated piece of machinery. It's all got to be balanced and timed. It's called a mid-gear, a reverser valve. Mid-gear or reverser valve. When it's in mid-gear, that means that there's no steam going into the cylinders at all. And when it's in forward gear, it's letting steam into here at a slower rate. These valves open, they're not like valves on a car, they're like doorways, if you like, and they slip past the face like this. And when they pass the face enough, so that the steam can pass through, it's like a port. So when the valve's about there, it's open so that the steam can go through, and then it's shut. Right? And that's how they work. It's actually something to work so I can show you actually taking it apart. This is the valves, this is the timing, the valve timing part of things, yeah. Okay. This is what controls all the valve timing. This is all one cylinder block, see? As you can see. This whole thing is one cylinder block. There's two steam pistons in here. There's one there. And one there. And this is the outlet part of it. This is, not the outlet part. This is the intake, and this is the exhaust. That's how it works. Intake, exhaust. That's what you say. But they both change power out to each other. So that could be on intake, and that could be on exhaust. It's basically how it works. Okay, so what else can I show you on this? This is the ash pan. These flaps open here when we're running, when the loco's going down the track. These flaps are open to draw air into the firebox so that the fire can burn better. The more air you have in the firebox, the stronger the fire will burn. The hotter it will burn as well. You have two dampeners, one on each